Question everything in pursuit of your purpose. Ask yourself, what if?
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Pursuit of Purpose What Are We Doing series of live podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And we appreciate all of you joining us today. We've got a little bit of an announcement before we get into the show. Chuck and I have launched our very first subscription service. And inside of that subscription service, there's going to be a lot of content, a lot of things available, but not the least of which is going to be the Certified Purpose Leadership course that we actually teach. And it may be something of interest or of value, but when we finish the show today and then I start publishing the shorts that we derive, I will start attaching the link to that Patreon account where you can find our subscription service. And just to let you guys know, it's not going to be anything expensive. The subscription services start at $5 a month. And if you want to take part in that, please feel free. But it will be leadership focused. It will be ownership focused. It will be personal development and growth focused. So join us in the Purpose Forged Leadership Network. And that'll be on Patreon, and it will also be available on School for those of you who may use the School app or platform. So anyway, thanks for joining us today for this episode of the What Are We Doing show. And today we're going to talk about
abundance.
Yes. And abundance, you know, is a lot of applications to that word and the concept of abundance. But I'm curious for those of you joining us today, and I see you there, Taha Ahmed, see you. And let's see who we got out there. Midwest, I see you. Brandon Rutherford, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Humor me not, spelled with a 3 for the E. Thanks for joining us. Hamid Zidi, thanks for joining us. I see you guys on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, thank you for joining us today. I have to apologize for the screen image. I'm not that technologically proficient. I haven't figured out how to reverse that the sign behind us or mirror it. So forgive me. I apologize for that. But want to talk about abundance today. And what is the opposite of abundance, Chuck? Lack. And there's a fascinating
Scarcities.
Yes. Short supply.
Yes.
In our nation, before most of us were alive, we experienced a big thing of lack.
Yes.
A big lacking experience back in the late 20s and early 30s. It was known as the Great Depression.
Right.
And it is a fascinating thing about that.
Okay.
You know what changed the Great Depression? It wasn't a president. It wasn't some policy change or some governmental intervention that changed the Great Depression.
Okay.
Do you know what it was?
My best guess would be us.
It was us. It was we the people, but it wasn't just we the people. It was a paradigm shift.
Yes.
It was a mentality shift. And it wasn't because of, no, that's okay. User 954-538-424, a bunch of numbers, says, please smooch. No, thank you. This is not that kind of show. But no.
You're watching too many hockey shows.
That's not going to happen here. But thanks for joining us. Appreciate your comment and your engagement, but we're not doing that.
It's like I was sitting in the room with my girlfriend's friends.
I lack any interest in that. I have zero abundance of interest.
That's right. That's right. That can die in my heart.
It ain't getting into my heart. But anyway, no, thank you guys for joining us wherever you're joining us from. So what changed that brought about the reversal of the Great Depression and brought us into a place of financial abundance? It was not the war. Many people attribute World War II and the economic changes that happened subsequently for helping really bring us out of the Great Depression.
Right.
But that's really not it.
Okay.
What happened is a mentality change
yes.
among the people. What happened is enough of us got fed up with believing in lack, that we decided to take it upon ourselves that if we're going to do better, it's up to me.
Right.
I have to do it. I have to believe in
Right.
myself enough that I'm going to create better for my family.
Right.
I'm going to create better for myself. Not only that, but I'm going to make myself a better person
Right.
in the process. And I'm going to serve my fellow man, and I'm going to make life better.
You know, I think about that era, that pre-war era, and I'm talking without facts, so please, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel pretty certain that era in America at least stands on its own as one of the greatest times of creativity through things like patenting and then improving on patents during that time, which means even though these folks may have been living in some impoverished state financially and maybe a few other things opportunistically, they still went out to their shops, they still sat around and imagined, and the creativity started to come out. That great human experience came alive in the midst of that low time in our country. And I think we're still using a lot of those to this day, things in our in engineering and various other things like that.
So there's a fascinating story that my pastor and one of my greatest mentors growing up, he used to tell it a lot when he, in some of his sermons, when he'd preach. And it was a story from the Great Depression. And there was this guy, and I don't know if it's true or not, but the story is even if it's not true, it's a great metaphor. It's a very useful story. So there was this guy in New York who was a hot dog vendor.
Okay.
And he was a hot dog vendor before the Great Depression. He was just a hot dog vendor. And before the Great Depression, he was doing mediocre. He wasn't making a lot of money, but he was surviving. He was supporting. He had a wife and 2 little kids.
Okay.
And he would go out every day, same time every day, and he'd take his little hot dog cart, he'd push it around, he'd sell hot dogs. Well, he had no idea what was going on. He didn't get the newspaper. He lived very modestly. He wasn't connected. In modern times, he wouldn't have Facebook. He wouldn't have TikTok. He wouldn't have instant news. He wouldn't have TV. He was just very modest in his living. So every day he was committed and diligent, and he went out and he fixed his cart up, loaded up with hot dogs, and went out and sold them. Well, during the Great Depression, guess what happened? There were lines of people standing in the street trying to get jobs, trying to get commodities, trying to get this, that, and the other. So they were lined up. Well, guess what they wanted around about lunchtime? They wanted food. So this guy had no idea it was a depression. For him, it was the greatest time of his life.
Wow.
And all he did was sell his hot dogs. He didn't raise the price. But every day during the Great Depression, he sold out. He made more money than he ever had. And what happened is he went to his vendor where he would buy his buns and his sausages. And his vendor told him one morning, he said, "Look, don't you realize we're in a depression?" And the guy was like, "What's that mean?" And the vendor said, "It means that our economy is tanked and nobody's got any money." He said, "Why do you keep buying all these hot dogs?" And he said, "Well, my business is doing great. What? I don't understand."
Right.
And the vendor kept telling him, "Don't you realize we're in a depression?"
Wow.
And what happened is, over time, this guy started to get sad. He started to see things differently, and his paradigm shifted the other way. And what's crazy is, in the story, as the lines started to dwindle down, as the depression started to wane and end, this guy's business started to suffer. But it really wasn't that his business was suffering. His mindset shifted the other way. He stopped believing in growth. Right. He stopped owning his own progress.
Right.
He stopped holding himself accountable for his creativity and growth.
Right. Stop seeing opportunity.
Yes. And then he went into a depression. And then he went not bankrupt, but he went down in business.
Right.
And he went home one day. This is the story. I don't know if it's true, but he went home one day and he was like, "I don't know what we're going to do." And his wife was like, "What do you mean? What you don't know what we're going to do?" And he said, "Well, I don't have any money and I didn't sell any hot dogs today. And I came back with almost the exact same number that I went out with." And she said, "Honey, you brought us through the greatest depression, the biggest financial depression that the world has ever seen. You helped us, you fed our family, you kept us going, you kept us enclosed, you kept our home. And once it's over, now you're giving up." And he said, yeah, he I don't know how he verbalized it, but he basically communicated. He said, I'm depressed. I don't feel like, this feels terrible. I feel like I've taken advantage of, whatever. And she said, you are the person I've admired most throughout this trial and tribulation. You've been my inspiration, and you've taught our kids how to be productive with life, how to be grown folks, how to really create. So through her inspiration, he went back out and he started selling hot dogs again.
Okay.
And according to the story, that man ended up owning a franchise business. Like, he ended up selling hot dog sales businesses all throughout New York. And anyway, so it was all about his mindset.
Right.
He started out on an ownership mindset, on a leadership mindset. And then through the process, he went down because somebody else's message worked its way into his mind.
Right.
He bought the lie. He bought the line that says, I'm helpless.
Yes.
He bought the lie that says, look at your surroundings. Look how bad it is.
Right.
He bought that. He bought into it. And then he started to attract to himself the suffering. And he refused to see the truth.
Wow.
That the power was his all along.
It blinded him to it.
Yes.
All in his mind. It wasn't that someone was doing this to him. He heard the message and he just accepted it. Oh, well then I must be in a depression too.
Yeah.
And once that took seed and started to germinate and it grew and it nearly destroyed him, if not for his most valuable asset, which was his wife, who said that is not true.
Yes. And the crazy thing, the reason this story correlates in my mind to modern things is because we watch the media, we look on the internet, we seek news, we listen to each other, but we listen to so oftentimes the most negative messages.
Yes.
If you want to get views, if you want to get likes, if you want to get activity on a social media, post something salacious, post something negative, post something that somebody embarrassed themselves or somebody failed at something. Everybody wants to know about it. Everybody wants to talk about it. But do something positive and it won't even get half the attention. With very few exceptions.
Because it doesn't give us that bump.
If they do give it attention, it'll be in a way that is doubtful and negative towards the positive thing.
Yes. And even if you're admiring some advantage that you got, maybe it's good favor or something came your way. Isn't it interesting how there's people out there that are ready to impugn what you see as a blessing? That's sad, isn't it?
So we've got some comments here, and I want to go over them. We were telling a story, and we weren't looking at the comments. So, did you know says, "Hey, two con man together." Yeah, that's funny.
Of course.
What's fascinating is we're not asking for anything. Captain 7 America says, amazing. They're chatting about the citizens, but not looking at our text. Well, I hope that changes your idea there. Crosby.
We'll call that a monologue. How about
Crosby Sydney says the entire economy is burning and you two don't care at all. Now, this is perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about.
Thank you.
So I'm going to tell you something, Crosby Sydney. The economy's not burning.
No.
They want you to believe that because it makes you stay focused on what they're saying.
Right.
But it's not. It's not burning. You're in control of your personal economy.
Right.
Nobody else. You are. And if you can't handle that, if you don't own that, then you are subjecting yourself to the whims and caprices of the media, of the government, of whoever you want to give authority over your life. But they really don't own your position. You do.
I've heard many of folks say, and I hope you guys choose to look them up. These are folks who will tell you, I have made money. I have made profit in every administration in my adult life because of the way that they look at their opportunities and business. And they may pivot their business a little bit based on needs, like the guy selling hot dogs. Well, he knows don't go where there's no people, go where there's people. And so he pushed his cart probably further than he maybe wanted to go that day, but he went and found the crowds and he knew somebody in that crowd's going to want a hot dog. Well, people who think abundantly, that's what they do. So if they think they're going to do like a machine, they're going to do the same thing every day and get the same result. That's not quite how it works. Abundant think people are always looking for that little bit of refreshing.
So Crosby Sydney says that PPI is 3.4%, interest rates are 7%. Gas just rose more in a month than ever before. It's a fascinating thing. How many of you are on here on the chat that are familiar with or possibly remember the gas shortages from the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the economy. I was born in 77, so I don't
Mhm.
remember any of that, but I've learned about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would have listened to the news,
Mhm.
it was the end of the world.
Mhm.
The economy was falling apart.
Oh yeah.
It was over with,
Oh, yeah.
man. We weren't going to have bread. We weren't going to have eggs. There was nothing. It was
That's
over.
right. We're going to be in this dystopian world for the rest of our lives. Most of humanity will die.
Right.
I mean, they just kept going. One of my favorites, Rob, was during that era, 60s and 70s, we were told the world is cooling and we're going to go into an ice age and we're going to freeze. There'll be no food. Less than 20 years later, the earth's going to burn up.
Right.
We're going to cook. We got to go to other planets because we're killing this one. These are people who they try to manipulate that sense of lack, that sense of desperation. I'm sorry if you're tuning into our show, we refuse to think that way.
So Crosby Sydney says, wait, where'd he go? Why do you guys answer everything with the same response? I don't know what you mean. We're talking about abundance and lack and the difference and who's actually in charge of your position of abundance or lack. And the truth is, Crosby Sydney, that if you don't own your life, no matter where you live, no matter what you're doing, I don't care if you're in America or not, you own your life.
Yes.
Even if you live in an oppressive state, you still own your life. Look at what Nelson Mandela did when he was imprisoned and tortured and lived in misery. He still owned his own life.
A good study for this particular person that's tuning into the show is go back and read about the folks that survived the Holocaust. In part of the reason they survived is because they refused to give up 100% of who they were to their oppressors, who were killing them daily, but they refused to give up 100%. Although they could take a lot of comforts, they can give them a lot of pain and a lot of distress, but they couldn't take everything because they kept some ownership.
So Dave 64 says, well, that's not true. What you talking about there, Dave? What's not true? Bryant says, what goes up must come down. That's actually very true. And let's see what else we got here. Sensational Girl says, and by the way, thanks for joining us today, all of you. But Sensational Girl says, proud paying an extra $1 at the pump to transport our troops. That's a great positive way to look at it.
There you go.
Emmy says, I don't think it's the end of the world for sure. It's fixable. But Felon is doing nothing but more harm. Crosby Sydney says, everything is fake from the news to make our conclusion. It's pure nonsense. I don't disagree with you.
Right.
I believe that things are slanted, twisted, manipulated, all in order to keep us tuned in.
They're selling a product too, friends.
Yeah.
I want to put that out there.
They got to advertise, and those advertisers, those customers that they've got are paying them those millions of dollars based on the views and attention that they can get.
So how do they keep you on that station?
Yes.
Yes, they're not ignorant. They know exactly what they're doing. They know where to tap in. The question is, are we going to buy it?
So thank you, Charming. I love this comment. Thank you, Charming says, my will moves mountains. I will overcome and profit along the way. See, that is the way to take ownership.
That's it.
And have accountability for your own life.
So here's a question if you guys want to chime in. So when you are in some state of, we'll just say some state of despair, it doesn't have to be total despair, but maybe you're having some health concerns. Maybe there's been a little bit of a financial hiccup. Maybe there's been some weather disaster in your area. What's the best that drew out of you? We've been through storms in this area. Literally, storms have come in and destroyed the homes of people that we know personally, Rob's house and others. But our community, to their credit, rallied. The best of us came out.
Captain 7 America says these guys do not want the truth, or they wouldn't ignore. Or they wouldn't ignore my question. I didn't notice any question that I ignored.
Sorry, you may have sent that while we were in our monologue. If you want,
you're welcome to ask anything you like. If it's on topic, we'll address it. if it's not on topic, we
Yeah.
will ignore it. I
Yeah.
promise you that. That's
By the way,
whole
it's our
point.
show. We reserve the right to introduce our topic. So sorry we didn't get to you in your time, but send it again. We'll do our best. As long as it fits our topic. for the
Yeah,
day.
we got to stay on topic. That's
Mhm.
all. So thank you, Charming says, people look up your heart mind. It will change the negative to positive. And that's very true. And
Yes.
you can shift your own paradigm with what you focus on.
Absolutely.
And that's the challenge of this particular episode. Is the story that I told was to illustrate this man. And I really think it's a true story. Now, I'm sure I screwed it up. I'm sure I didn't get all the details right. But the point is that this guy went through the entire range
Mhm.
of paradigm shifts.
Mhm.
He went from owning his life completely,
Yes.
having a complete positive outlook and a growth spirit, and focused on what he could create.
Right.
Then he sank into a depression
Mhm.
and started to see the lack that
Mhm.
everyone else told him he lived in.
Right.
And then after that, his wife helped him shift
Yes.
back into a growth mindset, back into an ownership phase,
Right.
and started to create again.
There's something about her in that story made me think, this man left, went out to provide for the family, and came home every day. So in her mind, she was living an abundant life. I have a family, we have food to eat, we have things going our way. So she never let herself see the lack. And in part, she kept herself insulated from it by just focusing on the prosperity at hand, which was her family.
So Captain Seven America says, in your show, who comes first? Your rules, your show, or us citizens? That's a weird question.
I don't.
I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
Like, we're all in this together,
Mhm.
but what comes first for the show is the topic.
Yeah.
Whatever the topic is,
Right.
that's what we're focused on.
Right.
And if somebody comes onto the show and needs help or something, then like sometimes we'll bring a live guest onto
Yeah.
the show, like we did last week
Yeah.
with the Texas Heart Doc. He was a great guest. We had a
Yeah.
great time, and we went down some rabbit trails a little bit, but we brought it back, and that's okay. But the whole point is to stay on topic. And today's topic is the concept of owning your own life, living in abundance,
Yes.
versus being manipulated to
Yes.
believe in the lack and loss that's presented to you in the news and in the social media and things
Right.
like that.
Right. And I want you to understand something for those of you who are tuning in today. We've allowed ourselves to drift into those seasons of thinking of lack type thinking, and not abundant thinking by far. So what did we have to do? Kind of like the vendor in Rob's story, we had to reclaim it. So, this is not something we're just born into, as people like to say, we've had it the whole time. That's not true.
Crosby Sydney says, I gave you multiple economic metrics and you wouldn't respond to a single thing because it was not on topic.
Right.
Those economic metrics, let me tell you something, okay? And you can, this may spark an argument, I don't care, whatever, but it's true. The media and people who perform acts like presenting metrics like to present facts in a way as though they are supportive of their argument, and that makes them true. But it's false.
Right.
A person can take any stack of facts and lay them out in such a pattern to support or refute almost any argument.
Sure.
And that doesn't make it right or wrong.
Right.
It just makes you support your own argument.
In part, that's kind of the makings of propaganda.
Yeah, and that's what the media does.
That's right.
I can align a bunch of facts. I can gather a bunch of information and then present it to you in such a way that's aligned with whatever premise I'm laying out.
Whole countries have gone to war because they believe that those little nuggets of the lining of facts to fit a narrative.
It doesn't make it true.
It doesn't make it true.
There's a difference in a fact and a truth.
Right. And by the way, just for the person who was making those economic posts, I'll tell you my age. I'm 58 years old, so that's over 5 decades that pushing 6 that I've lived on. I have seen the economy come and go and come and go. And when it has been down, why do you think it's come back up? Because there's people who think like this, who finally get their way into positions of influence, starting in their own lives and then doing their best to influence others. And then the economy comes back, and it will continue to do that for the rest of your life. I just want you to know that. So if you think this one little season of a few prices going up is total devastation and despair, and we're going down the dystopian trail to be burned up, that's not true.
Right.
That's not how it works.
So Captain Seven America throws out an interesting question, and I'll bring it up because I believe it actually is on topic.
Okay.
Who controls the media? Well, this is pretty easy to answer.
Good question.
Money. Money controls the media.
Yes.
They are pure and simple. It is not like it used to be, okay?
Mhm.
But it was always headed this way. Advertising controls the media.
Mhm.
And the whole push behind advertising is profit.
Mhm.
So who controls the media?
Mhm.
Money.
Right. The idea there is the media is its own little unique entity. It's a business.
Yeah.
It is a business like any other business. I'm sure you shop at some of your favorite stores. Same concept. Same thing. They paint the walls a certain way. They post things a certain way. They do loss leaders so that you'll buy bigger products. Media doesn't do much different. They follow the exact same model.
Crosby Sydney says, "Why are you guys acting like what you say is fact? We're not. We're just presenting an argument
Mhm.
our way.
Mhm.
You don't have to believe it. You don't have to agree with it. You can refute it. You didn't hear me say this is fact. In fact,
Right.
everything you've heard me say is I probably will mess this up. This may or may not be true. I like those disclaimers because
Yeah.
I don't know everything to be just truth.
That's right. But we do know things as we've come to believe them to be true. And you don't have to believe that same way. You're welcome to make your own conclusions. But this comes from a lot of study, and we feel pretty sure about it.
So let's see. Eddie Imperial says trusts are a satanic operation in law where you sold your soul. I'm not sure what that means. Fat Christ, fat with a PH, PHAT, Fat Christ 69 says, can you address my comment? It's on topic. I missed it, Fat Christ. I'm sorry. Bryant says, why do people troll the host? That's a great question, Bryant. Thank you for asking.
Yes.
Digging with Jason says, I'm not, it says damn near everything is psyop nowadays. It does feel that way, doesn't it? Crosby Sydney says, you never said a single thing like that. You are insanely bad faith. I'm not sure what that means. Suge White says, love the set. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Let's see. Fat Christ says, here's my comment. Talk about how Larry Ellison with Trump's help is taking over the media. Well, see, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't know about it. I have zero firsthand knowledge about that.
Right.
If that's what you believe, great, but it's not really on topic.
Right.
And if it is a fact, if it is a truth, rather,
Mhm.
then it feeds into the same exact thing that I was saying a minute ago. Money drives the media. And you don't have to like it, but it's the truth.
So speaking of media, which you're referencing, thank you for.
I will look into it though,
Yes.
Fat Christ.
And-
You thank you for that.
I'm going to use media as my example. Where are you? What trough are you going to feed information? And I'm not saying that as a judge. I mean, think about it. Are they telling me things that are going to make my life better? Or are they telling me things that are not? Because I have listened to a lot of the knots for years and years until I had kind of an awakening. Like, that's not the people I want to listen to. I want to listen to the people who are going to help me think more abundantly. So, because I want to grow. So if I'm listening to someone who is basically retarding that growth, I'm not interested anymore. You can go sell that to someone else. So please don't buy it, or pay close attention as to what you're listening to.
Yeah. So Crosby Sydney, apparently we've made some progress with Crosby Sydney. He says, all right, it's time to block. Thanks for the laughs. You're very welcome.
welcome.
Thanks for the time. Thanks for your
Have a
engagement.
great day.
Let's see. Minerva 25 says, LOL, my mom was always right, even if she was wrong. I think my mom's the same way.
As we like to say, I may have been wrong, but I was probably mistaken.
Apparently somebody just flagged us for hate speech on TikTok. That's fascinating. I would love to know what that's
I
about.
don't think that's us. I think that was somebody else. Yeah. Somebody typed something in, but I don't believe that was us. So no, we're about you guys grow, have that abundant thinking. I don't know what your mom was always right about, but moms have a tendency to be that.
Hey guys on the chat, please don't say ridiculous things. We don't use any kind of hate speech. We don't have any. I don't personally have any hate in me.
Right.
But
we try real hard not to use profanity.
it's
things like that.
yeah, it'd be really helpful if you guys would,
Yeah.
keep it classy, as
Please.
Ron Burgundy would say.
That's right. Yeah.
So
You
anyway.
you stay classy, America.
Crosby City says, "All right, it's time to block." Thanks. Yeah, I gotta
Okay.
scroll a little bit.
Okay.
Let's see.
And we apologize that these things are coming in pretty fast. I'm looking over Rob's shoulder, and thank you for participating. I'm sorry we don't get to all of them. We're doing our best. As you can see, Rob's working hard to be also not only a host, but also one of our producers. So give him some grace, friends.
Yeah, Minerva 25 says, I always verify with other sources. I'm not a blind believer. That's great.
Yes.
And I hope, Minerva, that you will actually choose to believe in good things and search for positive evidence to support positive beliefs
Yes.
about yourself and about others and other things. Like,
Mhm.
for instance, what if you chose to say, I live in the greatest nation on earth? What if you chose to believe that I live in the time with the most opportunity that's ever presented to a person?
Mm.
What if you chose to believe that and then you sought out evidence to support it?
Yes.
That could be your personal reality.
Yes.
What would be wrong with that?
And if your mind is focused on answering those questions, or at least validating those positions, boy, imagine what you'll discover. You'll see things you probably didn't even realize you would see.
Yeah. And Kush Fetish says, you have $1 million in your brain. You have to figure out how to get it out. Well, the crazy thing, Kush Fetish, and thank you for the comment.
Yes.
That's a very positive way to look at it, and I like that.
I do
But you
too.
have way more than $1 million in there.
Yes.
You
yes.
have billions of dollars worth of potential.
Right.
And that's not
Right.
an unsupported fact. That's a truth.
That is.
Every one of us, every human has billions of dollars worth of potential
Right.
in them. Most of us go to our grave with our potential still locked up inside
That's right.
because we chose never to let it out. We chose never to believe in the potential of our own growth. We chose never to take ownership of our own life. We chose to give control to outside sources.
Right.
And that is a tragedy.
Yeah, one of our good friends that we've interviewed several times on different platforms said one of the richest places on earth is in the cemetery. A lot of those ideas died with a lot of those beautiful
And that's
people.
what started this show to begin with, was my grandfather, who just died about 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
I had this inspiration that I didn't want to lose him without capturing his story, the story of his life. He was a World War II veteran.
Right.
He had an amazing life and his journey. He was married 3 times and never been divorced. So think about that. And I wanted to document his life. And it got me to thinking about how many of us, how many humans live through and create history
Mhm.
that we talk about,
Mhm.
but we never get the story direct from them.
Right.
So we created this show so that
Yep.
we could interview and document those
That's
life
right.
stories.
That's right. And your grandfather is a perfect example of someone who lived the generous side of abundance. He was always giving. He had numerous generous opportunities with family. Obviously, he wanted to give more love. That's why he, as a widower, he found another person that he could love, and on and on and on. Beautiful, beautiful man. And what an example, and of abundant living and the generosity that follows.
So a couple of things, I'm going to hit some comments here. Camp Slappy Survivor. That's a pretty funny name. Says, seeking out evidence to support your preconceived notions is a dangerous proposition for many. Facts. That is a very good
Mhm.
way to look at it. However, if you decide to believe in positivity, if you decide to take ownership of your own life and believe that you have within you the ability to create your future,
Mhm.
then it's not a
Right.
dangerous proposition for you. And you're the only one you have control of. You're the only one you can change. You're the only one you can truly influence and create with.
That's right. That's right.
So
if you're
start with you.
That's right. Because if you're waiting for someone to bring it to you, that's not how it works. You have to seek it. You will seek people who can help you. You will seek people who you could either employ or befriend or read their conclusions. We read a lot of books and listen to a lot of books, but you got to want it.
So Fat Christ 69 says, saying I live in the greatest nation on earth when we are committing actual genocide is wrong. Then Fat Christ 69 says, saying I live in the greatest nation on earth when we are committing actual, oh, it's the same comment, it just repeated.
Mhm.
So first of all, I'm not committing genocide.
Mhm.
I'm not involved in committing genocide.
Mhm.
And I am currently not aware that the United States of America is committing genocide.
Right.
Now, maybe I am just completely ignorant and you know way more than me,
Maybe.
Fat Christ 69. Maybe you've bought into a narrative that someone else fed you.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe I have. I don't know. Maybe I'm willingly blind
Mhm.
to the facts that you know to be true.
And let's just say that is true. That in and of itself would be tragic.
It would.
But if you look globally across the landscape of this country and all of its different components, we are the greatest nation in the world. And you know who would say that? The millions of people who try to come into this country every year. They come here.
So Fat Christ 69 says, you definitely are willingly blind, bro. I promise you.
Mhm.
See, I mean, I'm okay with you having that opinion of me.
Yes.
It doesn't cause me pain or
Nope.
anything. And I hope you're okay with my opinion that you've bought someone else's narrative,
Right.
because that is the way it seems to me. Sorry that I don't want to buy it.
Right.
I want to continue on my journey of creativity and ownership of my own life.
Right.
I have no desire to let someone else have it.
And what fruit do we want to come from that ownership? We want there to be abundance. What do we want to come from abundance? Generosity. And that's what I was just saying earlier about Rob's grandfather. He had that cycle mastered.
Yeah.
All the way up until the day he died. I guarantee you, he was still giving love even in his final moments. Because if that's all he had left to give, because his body was beginning to fail him, beyond recovery, well, there were still things to give that had to come from abundance.
So Fat Christ 69 says, you're basically saying you're saying something I don't like, so I don't think it's true. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And then Fat Christ 69 says, that's an incredibly immature attitude. Both of you have gray hair. It's just truth. So my grandfather, who we just talked about, was a World War II veteran. Okay. He was in the United States Army during World War II. He was what was classified as a radio electrician, but he was part of the U.S. military during World War II. Okay. So my question for you, Fat Christ, was, did America commit genocide back then because we were killing Germans? Or did the Germans commit genocide when they were putting the Jews in concentration camps and systematically eradicating the earth of them? So was it us committing genocide, or was it the Germans? How does that work? And how do you see history? How do you see that? I'm just curious, Fat Christ 69. What is genocide? About where allies went in to stop genocide. We went in to end the reign of Hitler and the Nazis, killing the Jews. That was their goal, was to create the pure race, to wipe the Jews off of the face of the earth, and then subsequently any other races they intended to wipe
they
off.
would not have stopped with the Jews.
That was the whole point. Like, so what it was, World War II, were we not supposed to do that? Was the U.S. bad for that? Because we were acting as the world police back then. We got involved in it to stop genocide.
Yes.
So
it's a fact.
Fat Christ 69 says, look at what Israel is to the Palestinians and tell me it's not the same. No, I'm talking, you said in Palestine is not genocidal.
Right.
That's it. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not involved in any other, like, I have no interest in supporting genocide of any kind.
Right.
So just wanted to throw that out there. Let's see. Suge White says, why is your but anyway, well, guys, it's been a great episode.
Mhm.
We've been on here with you for about 40 minutes now. We've got some great content going to drop very soon. But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to Stoney Pettit with Texas Ranch Sales. He has provided us with this set, which we are now, we've got brand new offices and everything like that at his building. But give a big shout out to him. If any of you are out there in the market for a piece of real estate that can become an estate or a legacy for yourself, a ranch style piece of real estate, Stoney Pettit is your guy. Look him up. You can find him on any social media, Texas Ranch Sales. Just seek out Stoney Pettit. Tell him you heard about it from us. And then also, if you're in the Southeast Texas area and you may have a need for some really good quality of our set furniture, not the money tree.
Nope.
We grew the money tree on our own.
That's right.
But the set furniture comes from Highway Furniture and Mattress, and I'll tell you, some of the greatest chairs.
Oh, these are comfortable.
These are
Yeah.
actually, I think
Yeah.
they're considered to be like breakfast chairs,
Oh.
but we repurposed them as our podcast set. And I
Yeah.
know you can't see it on Facebook and whatnot, but we've got a coffee table that's really great, an end table, all kinds of wonderful stuff. So if you're in the market for some furniture, Highway Furniture and Mattress, and they've got credit options for you and all kind of stuff. And don't forget that if you are interested in growing as a person, if you're interested in personal development, if you want to learn what it means to be a real leader, check out the Purpose Forged Leadership Network on Patreon or on School, SKOOL, the School app. We'll be sharing links to that stuff. We'd love to see you guys on there. If you have any questions about it, feel free to hit me up with an instant message or what have you. But thanks for joining us today. It's been a great show. Y'all have a great day. I'm Rob,
I'm Chuck.
and we will talk soon.
Question everything.